Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Boom and Gloom, a podcast about the Columbus Blue Jackets, where we discuss the boom, which is the good, and the gloom, which is the bad. I'm your host, Anthony. You may know me as Whaler Jacket on Twitter and in other social media circles. And it's been a while. You know, with the end of the Blue Jackets season, I knew I would be taking a summer break from podcasting, but I also knew that I wanted to jump back on here occasionally when CBJ news broke. And broke it has. That is why I am back with an off-season episode of Boom and Gloom. If you are a Blue Jackets fan, and I'm assuming you are because unless you're my dad, you wouldn't be listening if you weren't, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We have a new GM. Don Waddell was introduced as general manager and president of hockey operations of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk about that, of course. Before I begin, though, I wanted to let listeners know that I am aware of something. So I had someone with some experience with audio on computer stuff listen to this podcast, and he said everything sounded good except for your plosives. I was like, what the heck is a plosive? So he explained that when I use the letter P, sometimes it comes on very strong, like very loud. And so I am well aware of that now. And I looked on some YouTube videos, and I did find some ways to address that. But as of right now, I'm still learning, so please forgive me if you hear plosives. I apologize for those. All right, well, let's get back into this Don Waddell thing. First thing I want to talk about. Did anyone see this coming? Anyone at all? I pride myself as being, pretty up to date and hip to, all things Blue Jackets, when it comes to rumors and headlines. I read all the lists out there of potential GM candidates. I read all the predictions, all the possibilities. There was Matthew Darche, there was Mark Hunter, Eric Tulsky. Darche was my choice, my prediction. I thought it just made way too much sense for the Jackets to bring him in. But I'll get to that, all right? I saw the rumors about, there was Mark Bergevin, and thankfully the Jackets did not go that route. Again, in my opinion, there was that, I think his name was Jeff Gorton from Montreal. He was mentioned. Ken Holland was mentioned. And, heck, I even remember seeing one rumor that John Tortorella was being considered for the position. A friend of mine also hypothesized that it was going to be Ken Hitchcock. That, he had that tribute night. So that tribute night was kind of a way for him to get refamiliarized with the organization and kind of bring him back into the limelight. They'd have this tribute night. They'd keep him around for interviews and discussions about the team. Then they'd end up announcing him as the new GM. So I heard all those rumors. Okay, I was on Twitter practically every day looking for news, like a lot of fellow CBJ fans. I listened to all the podcasts, read all the articles from the reputable hockey experts, but I don't remember seeing or hearing a thing about Don Waddell. This was a complete surprise to me, a complete and total out of the blue surprise. I don't think anyone back in April or like the early parts of May had any inclination that Don Waddell would join the Blue Jackets. No one. When the news started coming out that it looked like he would be signing with the Jackets, my first thought was that he would be assuming a non-GM role with the organization. I was like, okay, Don Waddell's coming to the Jackets. All right. Who's he going to bring over as GM? At first I thought it might be a two-man deal. Waddell would be coming over, and he would bring over Tulsky to serve as GM. But to my surprise, and dare I say the surprise of many, it was Waddell and Waddell alone who came to the Jackets and assumed the GM role in addition to the president of hockey operations. Total surprise with this one. Not so much of a surprise was that John Davidson was stepping out of the president's role and into an advisory role with the team. I think the writing was on the wall for that to happen for a long time. Okay, I like JD, I really do. My whole family's a big JD fan. But I think the whole Mike Babcock debacle, I think that signaled his time was winding down for him with the Jackets, at least in the role of president. So that's it. Don Waddell is the new GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets. My thoughts on this? I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. And I certainly like it better than some of the other rumors. I mean, Mark Bergevin was someone I absolutely dreaded. I did not want to see the Jackets bring him into the mix. And I was so happy that they didn't go that route. My guy, my choice was Matthew Darche. I just thought he was just a perfect fit. Okay, he was the perfect choice because he's young. He would bring some fresh energy to the position, and he's a former Blue Jacket, so he has ties to the team already. And he served as an assistant GM with the Tampa Bay Lightning, a team that they've had pretty significant success. Like, they've had a significant run of success. And sure, they're starting to fade off a bit. Their window is closing. But Darche helped get that team to where it is as a perennial winner. So he was my hope. And if not him, I figured the Jackets would hire someone of generally the same mold. All right, someone young, someone with fresh ideas, someone with front office experience, and someone with some success under their belts. Someone like Eric Tulsky of Carolina. So I had that type in my mind. To discover that we signed a 65-year-old Don Waddell to a contract as president and GM, I had to think on that a bit and kind of wrap my head around it before I decided how I felt about it. And I'll say it again. I like it. Okay, it was just not what I expected, and it was not who I felt the Jackets should have targeted in terms of age and experience. But I like it. Okay, Waddell has certainly shown he can build a team into a winner. The Carolina Hurricanes have been very, very successful. And by the way, that still kind of feels like a stab in the heart as a former diehard Hartford Whaler fan. They have been very successful. They have a well-run organization. They have an amazing coach, in my opinion. I mean, I love Rod Brindamore. I love all the stories I hear about him. He seems like just a class act. And, of course, a darn good hockey coach. He was Waddell's guy. So he brings some respectability with him. And I could be wrong about this. Maybe I'm missing something, but I believe this is the first non-first-time general manager the Jackets have ever had. Like the first time they have had a GM with previous GM experience. Started off with Doug McClain. I believe he was head coach with the Florida Panthers, but never a GM before coming to the Jackets. Then came Scott Housen. I believe he was an assistant GM with the Oilers, but not an actual GM. Then, of course, there was Jarmo. And I forget what his role was with the St. Louis Blues, but he was not a GM. So unless I'm not remembering something, unless I missed something here, Don Waddell becomes the first general manager in the history of the Blue Jackets with some previous general manager experience at the NHL level. I just find that quite interesting. We now have someone at the helm who knows how to win. He has built and maintained a proven winner with the Carolina Hurricanes. I also have to say that I've really enjoyed his press conferences and interviews that he's had so far. He said the right things. He seems well-grounded, like down to earth, and of course very knowledgeable. From the interviews I've seen, he's chosen his words wisely when he's spoken, and he hasn't made any promises with regard to the future of the team. So yeah, I like this hiring. I like his personality. I like his experience. He has a good hockey mind, and he knows what it takes to win. He also seems, again, just from what I've heard, what I've seen, he seems to like Columbus. He had lots of good things to say about the city, about Nationwide Arena, and the fans. So, yeah, I'm happy. I like this hire. I will love this hire if he brings the Jackets to respectability in the near future. And that brings me to my next topic. Now that we know who the GM is, and we know his background, and we know how he has built other teams, like what his other teams have looked like. And I say teams, plural, because he was also the general manager of the Atlanta Thrashers a long, long time ago. Now, I'm not going to analyze those teams, all right, but we know what kind of moves he is capable of making. What type of team he likes to build. He doesn't strike me as the pure finesse type of guy. Okay, he seems to go for like a very balanced roster, and he does not seem to focus on goaltending. A knock on Carolina the past few years has been their goaltending. I've seen a lot of analysis that says that is what has kept them from getting to the next level, the lack of a elite goaltender. So knowing all that about Don Waddell, what is he going to do with the Blue Jackets? We can speculate a little based on some of the things he has said at his press conferences and interviews. Let's start with the goaltending. I was surprised to hear Waddell. He said that he tried to trade for Elvis Merzlikins several years ago. Waddell obviously saw something in him. He recognized that Elvis went through some trauma, but that he is capable of being a solid starting goaltender. He said something like the hope is to get him back to number one goaltender form. Now, one could look at those statements and that comment and say, well, looks like Elvis is staying put. And that could very well be true. But I'm not sold on it. This could have been a tactic to show Elvis that Waddell believed in him, all right, that he thought highly of him as a goaltender and was, just hoping to boost his confidence, in the event that he was unable to pull off a trade for him. Elvis's contract sucks, all right? Not one of Jarmo's finest, that's for sure. So my thought is that Waddell is positioning himself right now. He is showing support for his goaltender. He is attempting to boost Elvis's confidence and show that, he has some faith in him. So in the event he is unable to make a trade, Elvis comes into the season thinking he has the full support of his general manager. Now, that's just a theory, but if I'm right, I think that is a wise move by Waddell. He could have kept his mouth shut and said nothing at all. When someone asked him about goaltending, he could have just, sidestepped the comment or just gave a vague answer, a generic answer. But he didn't. Waddell hit it head on. And I appreciate that. And I think it might have been a very calculated move. So we'll see what happens with that. Next topic. Pascal Vincent. What about him? What does Waddell do with him? Does he keep him as a head coach? Or does he bring in his own guy? This is a tough one, and I go back and forth on this one. I can see him keeping Pascal for another season. I get the sense that Waddell can be very patient, so I can see him being very patient this season. And if he's patient, then he can take the time to properly assess Pascal Vincent as the head coach. As I'm sure all know, this is the second and final year of Pascal's contract. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Waddell to think to himself, I'll keep Pascal as the head coach this year. If it doesn't go well, then I won't renew his contract at the end of the season. But he will have the opportunity to prove he belongs behind the bench. So I can totally see that happening. But I could also see him deciding to go for a full culture change. All right, new GM, new head coach, new coaching staff. Let's begin with who I want to be coaching my team. I could see him thinking that. So yeah, that's a tough one to predict. I can't get a good read on where this is going to go with the coaching staff. Don Waddell made two other comments that I want to dissect and analyze here. Now, I don't have the exact quotes in front of me, and I'm honestly too lazy to go and look for them, so you'll just have to put up with me paraphrasing a bit here. One thing he said was one of the easiest things to fix was the back end, meaning, of course, the Jackets' defense. That leads me to believe that there will be some changes to the Blue Jackets starting six for next season. My bold prediction is that we have seen the last of Bean and Provorov, and possibly Boquist. I think Werenski, Goodbranson, Severson, and Juracek are going to be locks for 4 out of the 6 defensemen next season. Boquist may or may not be on the team. I think Waddell ships out Provorov and Bean, and then brings in another 1 or 2 defensemen with guys like Matejchuk, Blankenberg, Svozil, possibly Christensen, battling it out for the 7th defenseman and filling in as needed. Now, if Matejchuk doesn't make the top 6, I think he is more likely to play bigger minutes in Cleveland now. Another interesting side story to go along with this. Remember when the Jackets traded for Jake Bean? Remember where he came from? Carolina, where Waddell was the general manager. So I really can't see this team holding on to him. Now, Bean is a restricted free agent, so they may just have to let him walk unless Waddell can pull off some kind of sign and trade. But I just don't see him. I don't see him as part of the Blue Jackets' plans going forward. Now, the other thing that Waddell said that caught my attention, he said something like, "Don't be surprised if there are about a half dozen new faces on the roster next season." And that tells me he has already got a plan in his mind. He already has a general idea of where he wants to go with this team and with his roster decisions. I'm not saying he knows exactly who he's trading, and I'm not saying he knows exactly who he is re-signing or not re-signing, but he has a good idea. He's got a rough plan in place. And that means some players who we do not expect to be moved, they may be moved. Some players who we really like on this roster may not be on this roster next season. Waddell had or has a lot of things to sort out, I'm assuming. And his comment got me really thinking, okay, which, if he's truly saying that, be prepared, there's going to be like 4 to 6 new Jackets next season. And I think he said a half dozen. I can't remember the quote. But it got me thinking, which Jackets will not be on the roster next season? All right. So let's just for fun take his comment literally and pick 6 current Jackets who will be on other rosters next season. So I'm going to say Provorov and Bean, as I mentioned a moment ago. Those are defensemen. And then as for forwards, I have to say, I think Texier will not be a Blue Jacket next season. So there's 3. I also will take a wild guess here and say Justin Danforth. He's a solid guy who can play any forward position, and he gives 110% every night. But I also think he is not someone the Jackets have to keep on their roster. Okay, he is not a mainstay, and with Waddell coming in, he may not, or he may be more of a value as a trade candidate. So that's 4. Now I'm going to avoid taking the easy way out here. Okay, I could easily say Carson Meyer and Brandon Gaunce, right? Because I do think they're likely to move on. But instead, I'm going to throw out 2 big names here. Go big or go home, right? I'm going to say Patrick Laine and Elvis Merzlikins. Now remember, guys, this is a podcast for entertainment, speculation, and discussion. I don't have a crystal ball. I talked about Elvis earlier, and that Waddell may be hoping to hold on to Elvis and see if he returns to top form. If that happens, great. But I also think that he tries to swing a trade with him involved. Probably won't pan out, but it might. You never know. And then you have Patrik Laine. I know he has been through a lot, and we don't have any details, as we shouldn't, regarding his involvement in the player assistance program. But I can just see that if he is healthy and ready to go, Waddell decides to give him a change of scenery and get some assets in return. It would not surprise me at all. Waddell knows what we have in the pipeline. We have kids like Brindley and Malatesta and others they're going to be just itching to crack the Blue Jackets lineup and earn minutes. I think he's going to have to bring in some veteran talent, but he's also going to have some wiggle room in the form of roster spots so that some of our young guys have the opportunity to earn ice time and get some experience. So Waddell has some very difficult decisions to make sure. That makes no sense. Difficult decisions to make, for sure. It's going to make for a crazy offseason, I think. A fun one. And I'm looking forward to the draft and seeing what Waddell's first big move is going to be. And I'm not saying the big move is going to be at the draft. I'm just saying I'm looking forward to both the draft and whatever big move he decides to make. I would not be surprised to be surprised, if that makes any sense. I'm definitely looking forward to see what Waddell can do. All right, he has the experience, he has the confidence, and he has a very young and talented team. So let's see what happens. Other Jackets news. All right, not much else is going on right now. It's the summer, it's the off season. There is no word on why Patrik Laine was spotted in a sling with an ice pack on his shoulder in some social media photos. So that's a mystery. There's no word, at least that I've heard, about Kent Johnson's shoulder surgery recovery. Although I did see him in a social media post with Cole Sillinger. They were kind of messing around, and he seemed to have good mobility, assuming that the footage was recorded after the surgery. I saw him stick handling, lifting weights, so hopefully his recovery is going very smoothly. And lastly, still no word on who the Jackets' new TV play-by-play announcer will be, replacing Jeff Rimmer. I know that Bob McElligott wants the job. He's said it numerous times on the Monday Mailbag podcast. I am sure Bob is a nice enough gentleman, and I wish him all the success in the world, except for when it comes to getting the Blue Jackets TV announcer job. I've said it before, I just don't like his style. It makes a lot of sense for him to be promoted from the radio side. I just have to be a jerk here, I guess, and say, I hope that doesn't happen. And again, I'm sure he's a nice enough person, okay? I just don't like his announcing style. And it's no secret that I didn't love Jeff Rimmer either. But that was mostly because he was announcing past his expiration date, in my opinion. Forgetting names, mistaking players for others, making other mistakes on calls. But I like Jeff Rimmer's style. I really did. But not Bob's. I've said this numerous times, but I'll say it again for anyone who has not heard my take on this. But he has what I call a delayed style. The puck crosses the line, and he doesn't immediately say he scores. There's a delay. All right? Hockey is a fast sport. Things happen fast. Goals happen fast. Most announcers will call a goal like this. All right? They'll say, Sillinger passes it across to Fantilli. Fantilli shoots. He scores. Okay, that's normally what you hear. But what Bob McElligott does is something like this. Sillinger passes it to Fantilli. Fantilli gets it, and he shoots and scores. Sorry, that was hard on my voice there. So he tries to make it fun, and I respect that. I respect the effort and trying to bring a unique style to the job, but it annoys me that the puck has crossed the line, you can hear the fans cheering, and he still hasn't said the word scores yet. It's only a matter of a few seconds. But in my opinion, those seconds make all the difference in the world. Hockey is fast, and there should be no delay in the announcing. Now, I will admit, I am judging this from the radio side of things. All right, so maybe his style would work better on TV because, you could actually see the puck cross the line. And then, you see the players react. You see the fans react. So maybe Bob's embellishment of the calls won't matter so much. I don't know. But, please don't flame me if you are a big Bob McElligott fan. Okay, I'm just expressing my opinion. And if he gets the job, I hope I'm proven wrong. But again, I just don't like his style. I'm not saying I don't like him as a person. I just don't like his style of broadcasting. And with that, I think, looking at my notes here, yeah, I that's it. I have nothing else I would like to comment on today. So I think I'm going to wrap up this episode of Boom and Gloom. I'm not sure when my next episode will be, but rest assured, when any big summer CBJ news breaks, I will be commenting on it in a podcast episode shortly after. I was thinking about possibly getting some fans together to just chat about the Jackets and hockey in general, and then turning that into a podcast episode. So be on the lookout if you're interested in joining me for that. May or may not happen. I tend to keep pretty busy in the summer, so we shall see. But if I decide to go forward with that, I'll be posting something on social media. Happy June, everyone. It is June 2nd as I am recording this. I hope everyone is enjoying the start of the summer season, and I hope that you'll come back and give a listen to another episode sometime. You can always connect with me on Twitter or Instagram. Just search for Whaler Jacket, and you will find me. And that's it for now, everyone. Take care. Go Jackets.